Update. Am I the a-hole for moving on with my ex after my best friend told me she didn't want me? Original post. I, 24 male, have been friends with Chloe, 23 female, for 5 years. We met in college, and over the years, she became one of the people I could always rely on. Someone who showed up when I needed to talk, who knew my family, and who felt like a constant. Because of that history, when she told me a few months ago she was planning to visit my city, I was genuinely excited at the idea of finally spending concentrated time together, outside of brief catch-ups and text threads. A few days before her visit, she admitted something that surprised me. She said she'd had feelings for me for about 3 years. It was awkward and vulnerable in the best way, and once she arrived, we did end up hooking up. The chemistry was obvious, but so was the history. By the end of the visit, I realized my feelings were more than casual. I told her I had real feelings for her and wanted to see whether we could build something more permanent. She told me she didn't want that she valued our friendship and wanted to stay friends. I was hurt and disappointed, but I respected her choice and didn't push. About a month later, she came back around and told me she couldn't hide it anymore and wanted to try being together. That felt like a second chance, so we started talking more seriously. But despite the talk and the physical intimacy that followed, nothing actually solidified into a relationship. Chloe was in a rough patch, family drama, unemployment, and instability that had her couch surfing between friends. I tried to be patient, and I even asked whether being with me might be too much for her right now. She told me yes, it was better to stay friends while she worked through her personal stuff. And once again, I accepted that and stepped back. I had planned to fly out for my birthday to see her and potentially test whether her feelings were real, but she canceled on me twice. I didn't push. The cancellations were consistent with the instability she described. At the same time, she was chatting with old flings. I tried not to let it bother me because she had told me definitively that we were just friends, so I assumed she was free to see other people. A little later, my ex, 22 female, reached out. We had broken up on relatively good terms, and after time apart, both of us wanted to explore reconnecting, slowly, cautiously. Because I didn't want to hide anything or be disrespectful, I told Chloe right away that I was seeing my ex casually and that I wanted to take it slow. Her reaction was intense. She got mad, ghosted me, then reappeared sending flirty messages. At one point, after explicitly saying she didn't want a relationship, she texted, "But I miss you and your bed." That oscillation left me confused. I eventually moved forward with my ex because Chloe had twice told me she didn't want a relationship, and because my planned birthday trip had been canceled repeatedly. When I mentioned spending time with my ex and meeting her family, Chloe exploded. She accused me of leading her on, said I was choosing someone else over her, and cut me off. The next day, she was reposting TikToks with captions like, "When he makes you cry like this," and "Men ain't shit." What hurts is that I never lied to her. I asked for clarity multiple times, and she told me twice that she didn't want a relationship. I respected that decision. She was the one who flip-flopped, canceled on plans, flirted after telling me no, and then reacted as if I had betrayed her when I moved on. So, am I the a-hole for moving on after she made it clear she didn't want me? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Chloe don't really want you, dude. I think I got caught up in thinking everything was real because of how she confessed and everything like that. Wish I saw the signs sooner. She was definitely playing her options out. The periods of flirting with you heavy, then silence. Repeating speaks volumes. She doesn't really like you, my man. Not a good friend either. Forget her. Yeah, I guess I just really believed her when she said she'd had feelings for me all those years. Hey, live and learn, bro. Most of us have been there at least once. I'll share a piece of personal information that drastically helped my perspective and my relationships with women. I have a sister 2 years younger than me. We are really close, like super close. When I was 24, I was having this fling with a girl I really liked, a similar situation to you. We knew each other in high school. We had been messing around for 6 to 7 months. I met her family. She met mine, etc. Then all of a sudden, she started getting more distant and weird blah blah. I'll never forget the words my little sister gave me. Don't chase anyone. If a girl likes you, she'll make time for you. No matter how busy she is, she'll find time to spend with you. It was so refreshing. I know it sounds stupid, but 14 years later, I still thank her for telling me that and for getting me to believe those words. No mature woman who genuinely has feelings for you is going to play the game your friend did with you. Plain and simple. Sometimes people do this thing like your friend exhibited, where they get mad at you for moving on. Not because they truly like you, but because they can't have you as a safe option. Someone to BS with late at night. Someone to use as the occasional booty call. Screw those people. Now for the update days later. So I didn't expect my original post to blow up the way it did, but thank you to everyone who commented. It actually helped me put a lot in perspective. A lot of you said Chloe just wanted attention and to keep me as a backup, and after this week, I can't even argue with that. Here's what went down. A few days ago, I'm on my lunch break, literally driving to Culver's, when Chloe calls me out of nowhere. I let it go to voicemail. Against my better judgment, I called back and asked if she meant to. She said no. She was actually trying to call another friend whose name is right next to mine. I said no problem. She wished me a good day, and that was that. Except it wasn't. About an hour later, she calls again. I ignore it. Texted. Another accident? She doesn't answer, but then calls me again. This time I pick up. She tells me, I don't like this game. I know I probably hurt your feelings. I'm not mad at you, just the situation. I said, yeah, I was hurt. She threw away a 5-year friendship over a mess she created and strung me through. She said she understood, then hung up because her mom was calling. Not even 5 minutes later, she texts me. Says she can't call again but can text. Then drops this bomb. When I said I loved you, it wasn't in a friend way. I reminded her that I told her multiple times I had feelings too, and she's the one who wanted things back to normal, and later told me a relationship was too much. I laid it out. She rejected me twice. Honestly, 3 times if you count when I asked straight up if we were just friends and she said yes, about a month and a half ago. Her reply, I bet you have a whole new girl and never even liked me in the first place. Not true at the time, and I did have feelings for her truly. So I asked, how can she be mad at me for moving on when I was literally doing what she asked me to do? I told her if anything, we should have kept it at a friendship level to avoid all the mixed signals. She fires back, I don't want to be friends. I asked why she reached out at all. Her answer, because I didn't know if you would ever give it a chance. So I spelled it out clearly. I did give it a chance. Multiple times. She said no. Thrice told me she didn't want a relationship. Twice canceled trips I planned to see her. At that point, I had no choice but to move on. I told her my decision is final. I've moved on and I wished her the best. She replied, please no. But I stood firm, told her I respect her and wish her well, but I'm not going back. So yeah, this confirmed everything you guys warned me about. She wanted me as an option, not as a choice. And the second I stopped playing along, she couldn't handle it. Good for you for seeing her for who she is and standing firm. Let her play her games without you. Yeah, I finally see it now. Standing firm was hard, but probably the best decision I've made in a while. She showed you who she is, and that she never wanted you as romantic partner. She wanted you to follow her around like a lovelorn puppy. You, OP, are not the a-hole in this situation, and I wish you the best with your love life. Yeah, looking back, I was basically the emotional support animal, loyal, patient, and apparently waiting for scraps. Honestly, in your place, I'd unfollow and block her, or she'll continue to inject drama into your life and create problems with your girlfriend if she can. Tell her her drama's too much for you. You wish her a good life, then block. Your continued sanity will thank you. Yeah, at this point, blocking her feels less like being petty and more like self-care. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife to marry her freaking therapist because I am freaking done? After our oldest son was born, my wife decided not to return from maternity leave and to be a stay-at-home mom. 6 months later, we started noticing missed milestones and other concerns. We expressed our concerns to his pediatrician, who said milestones were just guidelines and not to worry. Around this time, my wife started to get anxious and frustrated more and more. She said something was wrong with our son and we needed to help him. We went to a second pediatrician, who gave us take-home evaluations to do. They stressed out my wife, who said she couldn't fill them out because she was afraid of accidentally answering wrong. I did my best to fill them out, but since she was the stay-at-home parent, I needed her help on certain parts because some questions were phrased, "How many times per day XYZ?" and I needed information from her to answer that. She got very frustrated during this process and said I wasn't supporting her. The pediatrician diagnosed our son as autistic when he was almost 2. My wife was upset by this, and the pediatrician recommended she see a therapist, as parents of autistic children sometimes struggle, especially the parent who spends the most time with the child. In some ways, that's the last time I ever saw my wife. Her frustration and anxiety only got worse. She's a completely different person now. She only communicates in therapy speak, and she acts like her therapist is God, and she is her prophet carrying her commandments to me from on high, to defy at my own risk. Here's an example of some of the insane things her therapist has apparently told her over the years. Our son is emotionally abusive. He was 3 when she said this, because he intentionally withholds affection. I'm emotionally abusive because I canceled a date with her after she called me a loser, and I didn't want to spend the evening with her. I am sexually abusive because I told her I didn't want to have sex with her after an argument to punish her. Fights don't get me horny, but that's my fault, I guess. I am financially abusive because I told her I didn't think we could afford another baby, that we ended up having anyway because she wore me down. I am physically abusive because I put my arm out to stop her from walking into the kitchen when I was sweeping glass off the floor. Our son is physically abusive because he accidentally kicked her while throwing a tantrum. He was 5. Those are just a few examples. I have more, but the post is already too long. As I mentioned, she wanted to have another baby. I thought it was a bad idea. I have actually been trying to convince her to go back to work so we can afford specialized care for our son, but even bringing up the idea is, you guessed it, abusive. Well, we had the baby, which I thought was a bad idea, but that's in the past now. Our second son turns a year old soon, and for the past year, my wife has acted like our older son and I are the enemy forces against her and our younger son. She no longer is providing our older son with any care. I had to scale back at work so I could drop him off and pick him up from school, but that wasn't sustainable. We were bleeding money. I finally found an after-school program for him, which is expensive, but it allowed me to work the hours I need. I told my wife it's not fair to our older son to ignore him and treat him like he isn't around. Obviously, the baby needs more attention, but it's wrong not to give our older child any. It also isn't fair to me, because I hardly ever get to interact with our younger child since I have to do all the care for our older child, and she always has the younger. She said her therapist told her that, in a way, our older son actually killed her first baby because he is the disease that replaced him. I said I don't care about her therapist. This is about our family, and she is neglecting us. She said her therapist said neglect was a weaponized term. I told her to marry her effing therapist then, because I am effing done. I told her I am filing for divorce. She lost it when I said that. She said I can't talk about her therapist like that. I'm trying to alienate her from her support person, and that's abuse. I talked to my friend who is a lawyer to get a recommendation for a divorce lawyer, and he told me it's an a-hole thing to do to insult her therapist, because therapy is important, and it's not the therapist who told her to neglect our kid, hopefully. This therapist ruined my marriage and turned my wife into a crazy person. How am I wrong for insulting that? But if my own friend disagrees, I guess I might need a reality check. That is not a therapist, but a parasitic enabler. To be fair, the therapist only hears her side of the story, and who knows how she portrays both the son and the husband. Her son having killed her first baby because he's the disease part is in no way sane whether they hear only her side or not. Not the a-hole. You're a far better person than me because I would have gone nuclear a long time ago. I say that as a woman. It should have been over the moment she started neglecting your older son. Looks like she just wanted to discard him and have a do-over baby. What an absolute monster. Well, at first I thought the neglect was maybe a symptom of postpartum depression or something like it. But now it's been a year and the neglect has been permanent, so I have to act. Honestly, I feel like she pressured you into the second child as a do-over for your first child. She wanted a healthy child, and now that she has that, She's gonna keep acting like your first child is just an added burden to ignore. That is absolutely what happened, and I sort of knew it at the time. Let me be clear, I love both of my children very, very much, but I did not want to have a second baby at that time. She kept at me and at me and at me, and finally I gave in. I love him and never have nor ever will regret him, but that's absolutely what happened. Last story. Am I the a-hole for quitting my marriage? I recently filed for divorce after 6 years together, 2 years married. I have a 15-year-old stepdaughter and a 17-year-old stepson. They are amazing kids academically, they stay out of trouble, and they treat people with kindness. After 2 years of marriage, I filed for divorce because my soon-to-be ex refuses to hold them accountable for not completing their chores or picking up their rooms. The chores consist of emptying or filling the dishwasher and taking out the trash, bare minimum. My ex has had multiple talks with them, and it gets better for a week or so, and then all of the burden falls back on me. I get minimal help from him as well. The kids are continually rewarded by him with electronics, shopping sprees, concerts, floor seats, etc., even when they are not fulfilling their small tasks at home. I am the primary chauffeur to and from school because my stepson is too lazy to get his license. I take them to all of their appointments, school activities, etc. My father passed away less than 6 months ago unexpectedly, and I begged for help around the house while I figured out my new norm without the rock of our family here any longer. I was completely disregarded and told I overreact when things don't get done by my ex. It's been about 3 years of me asking for a united front and support with equal household responsibilities. Every time I tried to talk about it, he would go into complete defense mode and start picking out things about me that bothered him. Honestly, it always turned into an argument, and I would shut down in defeat. The icing on the cake is he questioned my integrity and trust by bringing up someone from my past, over 6 years ago, and whether they had reached out to me when my dad passed away, which is a very sensitive topic for me. I spiraled out, handed my ring over, and filed a couple weeks later. After everything I've done for my blended family, personally, this never should have been a question. Ultimately, all of the buildup and what turned into resentment came crashing down that day because I felt like he thought I would hide something from him to this degree. Am I the a-hole for quitting my marriage as I am being told? Not the a-hole. Sounds like you've been trying for years, and your husband just saw you as a bangmaid/nanny/chauffeur. It kind of sounds like he was obsessed with being the fun parent in the divorce, and OP made it even more convenient. That's a fair assessment, and I realize that now. Unfortunately, I am a very giving and caring individual. I hate to see people struggle, which is what I am working on today. Setting boundaries to avoid these types of situations in the near future. Not the a-hole. You didn't quit your marriage. You quit being a doormat. You quit being the maid. You quit being the chauffeur. You quit being in-house pussy. You quit being married alone. You quit the BS. Now go live your best life, OP. Best of luck. Agreed. OP. Once the shock wears off at just how much they don't care about you at all, you're gonna be so relieved you left. Good for you. Has he said anything since you left? Have the kids said anything? They left. I had the home premarital. He did not let me say goodbye to the kids, and we haven't talked much other than sorting out legal pieces.